Welcome back to day 2 of PEX Network's Process Mining Live 2020. I'm your host, Seth Adler of IQPC Digital, as well as the host of the PEX Network podcast. We've already heard from Stephen Remsen this morning, and great sessions yesterday. We now dive in with Michal Rosick, who is going to apply courage and confidence to make you a process hero. So without further ado, he's just walked in. Please welcome Michal Rosick.
Thank you very much, Seth. Thank you for the introduction. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, based on your time zone. I'm very glad that we can meet here and that you attend this wonderful event and our presentation, our talk. Even despite those, difficult times that we are living in, I hope you are all healthy and staying safe. The topic actually started the beginning of this year with a survey that's conducted every year. And the survey consists of 3 questions always. And one of the questions is what the BPM practitioners, what kind of skills do they need for this year to be able to, live in this world of processes? And I was thinking about, all the different technologies and AI and hype words that are around, but I suddenly realized that the important things that really are moving the markets today is to have courage and confidence. To make changes, to execute, and in enterprises we are always searching for people who are dedicated to processes, who are dedicated to changing the world and changing the world inside of the enterprises and companies. We are searching for what we call a process hero, and we use this hashtag in our communication on social networks and everywhere, because we think we need heroes in companies that are able to move things forward. Otherwise, we will be just, talking about stuff here. So let's dive right into it. Why we actually mine processes, what we see around is, and it's not only connected with what we live in right now. I mean, the coronavirus and all the things health related, but what we live in is inevitable change. We see different markets, not only process mining specific market, but healthcare, but manufacturing, everything there. Where the enterprises just must change. They must change in order to survive in some of the markets or to grow. We see a lot of enterprises just moving the direction of digital transformation. They want to do DTO. They want to transform how they work from the old school to the new digital enterprise. But the transformation initiatives are many times stopped. We see a lot of initiatives on automation. Robotic process automation is just booming. It's considered the silver bullet of efficiency. And unfortunately, it always starts with automate first approach. So there's always, we automate everything and do not think about what kind of process we do automate. All the different hype words, as I mentioned, AI, machine learning, everything around these buzzwords. We are trying to use these technologies, and we see markets trying to leverage those technologies in order to get answers. But unfortunately, we see the enterprises and the companies that expect AI to be able to not only give answers, but also set questions. And basically, they do not know what to ask. They just want the question and the answer at the same time. So unfortunately, in those markets, we see many failures. We see many initiatives being stopped, being put on hold, not returning enough ROI. And that's where we want to, put our vision into it. And our vision for this changing market is really to bring full transparency into the processes and streamline them first before doing the automation, before doing other initiatives that, like predictions, like using AI, like using machine learning, really focusing on efficiency in the processes, on having the value by understanding how your operations work. And this will help you overcome fear and doubts because the change is necessary, but many times the managers just have that fear and doubt in their minds. When we look at the friction that is causing the initiatives to fail, let's look at the history of problems in process mining initiatives. And 4 or 5 years ago, when we actually were starting within Mineit and then with process mining, we've seen that the main issue was data. How to extract data from systems. Is there enough data? Do we need to do a lot of pre-processing? How do we combine data from different systems? Because we have hybrid processes going across different line of business systems. That's no more a problem. Data is there. We have connectors. We have everything ready. We can extract data from the top vendors like SAP, like Salesforce. But we can also look at the data in the systems from smaller vendors, or maybe market-specific or industry-specific systems. 2-3 years ago, it was mainly about the analytical features. Do the process mining tools have enough features? Do they offer enough analytical capabilities? Again, this is not a problem. And I'm not talking about Mineit purely, but about all the vendors that we see around. They are adding more and more functionalities. They are using newest technologies, new researches to allow the analysts to really dig into the processes without any problems. 1 or 2 years ago, we've seen a lot of communication about how do we deliver the results to the stakeholders, to the process stakeholders, to the business stakeholders. How do we deliver the results of the analysis to the management? And that's not a problem anymore. We have dashboards. We have, capability to access from any device, anytime, the current state of the processes. We can access the results of the analysis. We can compare it with the current state. That's not a problem. So the question is, what is the main friction right now? What is the main friction today? Well, many process mining initiatives go through the analysis phase. They present the results. They make suggestions. They find the bottlenecks. They find how to make the process different. But the main problem is to make decision and implement those changes. Many times the business or process stakeholders just get stuck because they are afraid to make the decision to change the process. They are afraid to make the decision to reallocate resources or do anything around that. They are feared that it will cost a lot of money. They are feared about the results. So sometimes they do these automation first initiatives or, DTO first initiatives without the understanding of the process, just because it is really considered a silver bullet. But when they found out that the process is inefficient, that the process is problematic, then they are feared to make the changes anyway. And the second problem right now that we see with this kind of process mining initiatives is actually how to monitor the impact of the executed changes. So we have some key objectives in the enterprise. We have some KPIs and business rules, and we need to be confident that what we do is actually delivering the results or the ROI that is expected. So what we are talking here are really the soft skills, courage and confidence. Have the courage to do the changes and the confidence to be sure that the changes just make sense and deliver the results. And of course, we are talking about those skills, but right now, everywhere in this markets, we see that the decisions and the execution and the confidence and the monitoring part must be data backed. So let's look at how we close the loop and where does this courage and confidence fit into the actual process mining loop? So first of all, it's the gathering of the data. That's standard part. So we execute the extraction. We get the data from the information system. For the production environments, we always focus on setting up the pipeline, not only extracting it once, but be able to extract it near real time, basically based on of course, on the process that we are looking at. So really looking at the current state of the process anytime you want. So refreshing the data in the analytical tools and also in the dashboard tools. We analyze the process. We make the standard process discovery. We drill down into the process using filtering capabilities, using different influencers, using root cause analysis. So that's standard process mining that the tools offer. Then we summarize the findings and the process analysis results. And now it's time to make the decision. So this is where the courage comes in. And we need to decide that we want to really execute the changes. Now, many times, the business stakeholders are just afraid because when they hear the words process reengineering, it equals cost. It equals maybe releasing people or firing people. In their minds, it makes a lot of change to the enterprise. Unfortunately, they do not see that sometimes the changes can be small. It's about training the people, reallocating the people to other tasks. It's about using really RPA or these modern technologies to help the people and to deliver or to reject the bottleneck shifts that happen in the processes where the bots are just producing more and more work for the people coming after them in the hybrid processes. Then, of course, we need to implement the change. I'm sure it will take time and money. That's of course true, but it can be cheap. It can be expensive, and then it's necessary to have the confidence. So monitor the impact of that, and this is closing the loop because the monitoring of the impact just means gathering new data and going into the next loop of process discovery, process analysis, summarizing the findings, and fine-tuning the processes. So in the teaser, we mentioned several use cases. I will just mention 3 of them. And I would like to state a question, like, what do they have in common? So procure-to-pay process in telecommunication industry. We have a global company that's operating in more than 20 countries. Big revenues, a lot of employees, 25,000 employees. So the ROI calculation after the findings which were connected with process compliance, with process efficiency and automation, we found that we can eliminate rework in that process. We have, or they have problems with PO bundling. They are changing avoidance. ROI calculation showed there could be possibly around 5 million in savings for that particular telco operator. For the use case 2, we looked at the order-to-cash process. Again, a big company, 18 billion in revenue. We used the duration influencer for baseline analysis. We've seen impact of changes per customer, sales, material, and really by eliminating the sales order changes, just by eliminating this small step in the process, we're able to make a potential saving of the $390K in US dollars. To look at use case number 3, that's connected with robotic process automation. So really, a global logistics company delivering just-in-time deliveries to different manufacturing factories and manufacturing plants. We've seen or used the resource performance cost analysis. We looked at the UI recording plus the high-level logs in combined with hierarchical process mining and the potential bot performance monitoring. And again, there's a potential ROI calculation by reducing just the mean duration of the cases of the process by 3 hours. That, in money perspective, that meant around 466K. Now, what do they have in common? I used a word 3 times, and that word is potential. So we are talking many times. We are doing POVs. We are doing proof of concept, this proof of values. We are showing the customers what is the potential saving. The problem is that many times the changes that we find are not executed. And why that happens? First of all, the findings are quite complex right now. So we moved from simple findings to more complex ones, and there are no longer low-hanging fruits in many processes. So you need to find a way how to change the process. There are multiple changes. So for the stakeholders, it is very hard to distinguish which change is more important. Which change will make a better or better impact or will bring more benefits. There are many execution variants. So even though there is a single finding, you can execute that finding in many different ways. It might make a difference which way you go. And of course, cost of changes. That's what I talk about. Some changes are cheap, some are more expensive. But anyway, what we would like to see is a data-backed decision where we see the impact of the cost combined with the revenues, with the potential savings, and decide based on data. So many times the solution, as already mentioned, was, let's use the hype technologies. So let's automate, let's do predictions. The problem is, with automation, that automating a crappy process will still produce crap, but faster. So the process will be faster if everything goes well, but still it's inefficient, it's crappy. With predictions, it's very similar. It totally makes sense, but in a non-optimized process, it only makes sense if you are interested in the next wrong step in the process. So it will predict how the process will work. That's for sure, with certain probability. The problem is it will predict an inefficient future. So what we really put effort in it and really think that today is the time for this particular functionality is to close the loop also in the technological point of view, and to be able to take the original event log and to mine the process model, take the process model configuration out of it, and based on that to make a simulation, a process simulation, to make changes to that process model, to make changes to the configuration of that process model, and get a simulated comparison report. Of course, there is certain uncertainty in that process simulation, but it will give you at least some idea of how the change will impact your process. And at the same time, it will also generate a new simulated event log. So the simulation will generate a new event log that you can use in your process mining analysis, in your process discovery, and it will close the loop, and you can still work with the simulated event log as with a new process, and look if it brings you the value, if it brings you the benefits. Okay, so we are talking about process simulation. I would like to just show you a bit from the real world, not just to talk about slides here. And I move here to Mineit environment. I hope everything works well. So this is a standard process mining analysis. We have the hierarchical process mining. We can, of course, we consume the original event log here for the credit approval process. It's a very simple process. We can just switch to performance view so that we see the mean duration of the events, and we want to make a decision. So we can drill down into the individual organizational parts or divisions or departments. We see the potential bottlenecks are here in the loan and credits division. So we can see whether that's in administration or back office. Let's look at the administration. So in this way, we find the activities that are potential for RPA. If we have the recording of the user interaction also from the task mining recorders, we can even drill down into these activities to see what exactly the users are doing. So on the level of clicks or typing. So now we have here two potential activities that we can work with. We can, of course, expand it all and just drill down in the other parts of the process. But we found this part. We want to make a decision. So let's say we want to use the RPA technology for these two activities. So we go to the simulation module here, and if we create a new simulation, what it gives us is the actual process model. It's in a BPMN form, so you will see the map that you've seen right a few seconds ago with the individual activities. So it transforms the map into a BPMN process model, and you can then change it. So there is a full editor. You can add activities, you can delete activities, you can change the activities and the configuration of the activities. So you can decide that a different team of people or a bot team will particularly work on this activity. You can change the distribution of time. You can assign the costs that are connected, of course, also with automation. So every run of the robot or every month of running the robot will cost you some money. Of course, you can decide on the individual gateways, what is the probability that your process will go a certain way, will use a certain edge in the process. So you can also simulate changes. For example, if you decide that your credit applications about 1,000 will go a different way, you can change the probability because you know how many applications about 1,000 euros you have, and you can change that probability as well. The simulation settings here are taken from the mind model. So you have the original distribution, you can change it to a different distribution, how the individual cases are initiated, how they are started. So you can actually simulate really the past event log. They will start here in the original distribution based on that time, and you can modify the settings for the individual resources. Now I will, just for the shortage of time, I will not run the simulation, but I will go to a run that I had previously done with the bots here, taking care of this particular two activities. And you get immediately simulation results. So you get the total cost of your process, you get the distribution of active time, of the resources, and you get the information about the individual activities. And of course, you want to compare it to the original process. So it's nothing more easier than just switching on the compare of the results. And you get it in a nice graphical form where you can see that the average duration of those two activities just shortened by nearly 100% because it takes now seconds. What is more important that you caused a bit of a bottleneck shift here where the assessors of the application, the people that are behind the bots, that are the next step after the bots, they actually need more time for processing the applications because the bots are generating more and more work. And you can drill down into details here and see exactly where the changes are in the costs or performance here. The important here also is that you saved, based on the simulation, around 3% of the cost of your process. So this way you can make a data-backed decision that you can show to the decision makers. If you are an analyst or as a decision maker, you can just simulate your new process and have a look at it and see how it differs from the cost perspective or the performance perspective. So you do not need to fear. You have a sandbox, you can play with the sandbox, then you can throw it away and you can use it again. And of course, as I said before, this is how the generated event log is taken from the simulation. I'm comparing it now with the original event log here, using the standard process mining techniques. And I see the bottleneck shift here where the assessing of application is taking 6 more minutes. And I can see the details about who is doing that, what is the performance, what is the cost, if there is any rework or not. So this is something that you can count on and really make you a bit more courageous to make the change. Okay, let's jump back to the slide. So we were talking about process simulation to really make your courage stronger and to make you stronger in your decisions and executing them, because after you execute them, what you want to do is to get the confidence, of course, that you made the right decision. And simulation is nice, but of course it is a simulation and the reality might be a bit different. So what you want to do is just monitor what's happening. And with monitoring, really with confidence, it's about updated data. You want to get the newest data immediately, have it online or near real time in many processes, of course, like credit applications or procure to pay, order to cash. We are talking about processes that last for days or maybe even weeks. So it's not really beneficial to, update the data every second. But of course, if we are talking about manufacturing processes or when you are, getting event logs from manufacturing lines, then of course it makes sense to be near real time. And of course, you want to have that in your monitoring and you want to have the most actual data. And of course, you want to look at the KPIs and the business rules, because that's what's of interest. You want to see the nice, green, orange, red labels, what is wrong, what is above threshold, what is below threshold. So you want to monitor, and not only values, particular KPIs, but also business rules. So certain sequences, certain variants of the process. If a certain path in the process that should be eliminated did not occur again. Of course, augmented intelligence, using software and tools that understand your data, that understand your, we call it thoughts, but that understand how you use the data. Tools that can look at the data and take the most out of it. And of course, you want to drill down into the data, because that's important. When you are monitoring and you find some, KPI thresholds to be non-compliant with your regulations or a certain sequence in the process, you want answers for your questions, because you start asking why this happened, where did it happen, how is it connected with my process, what is the step, which people are responsible. So what you want to do is immediately in there drill down into that, filter that particular activity or part of the process, and just have a closer look at the root cause of what happens there. And for this, we use interactive dashboards. And the dashboard must be on a certain level to allow really to put a thumb on the pulse of your processes, to really feel how your processes work. So let me share my screen again for a second demo, and I will just briefly show you. Here are dashboards, and I need to refresh it. I'm probably locking in again. So here we have another, it's an invoice approval process. And these dashboards are powered by, state-of-the-art, Click analytics that some of you might be familiar with ClickSense. So this kind of environment, and you are familiar with that. You can, of course, use different mashups. You can publish the results on your intranet pages and combine it with your BI reports. Everything is possible. But what's more important, you have the data here. So if you have the pipeline of data refresh, and you get the data, the news data, your analysis in the analytical tools, as well as your results in here in the dashboards are just up to date. So if you look at the process overview here, we combine the best of the BI world with the best of the process mining world, right? So you see the familiar experience that I showed you previously in Mining Analyst. So you have it in your dashboard. So you can really look at the process map that is interactive, that is giving you, frequential view, performance view, that you can really find out what is the potential problem in here and look at the mean duration of the activities, look at the bottlenecks, what is taking too long. And this is interconnected with the KPIs that you see here, with the resources, how many tasks are the resources performing, and you see the different variants of the process as well. So, and you can make selections here. So it's fully interactive. It filters all the visualizations. If you are interested in this particular variant, you get just the KPIs and the resources and the process map actually for that particular variant. So you get the really enough confidence that anytime on any device you see what happens in your process. You can select multiple variants. You get cumulative aggregated results. And you can go even to the details of a particular person, what the person is doing in that process, in those variants, what is the KPIs, how many cases are there actually. If we go back, because that's not all, here we looked at the process itself, but I was also showing how you can compare the processes. And this is now possible with this dashboards as well. So you can create a very simple, switch off the selections here. You can get a very simple overview. Here we have, divisions, and you see immediately the comparison of these processes. You have the process variance for both of these processes, and you have the people, the human resources performing these activities here in this filter pane. And now you can look, if you are interested in certain people, you can just click on those and see which variants in those two processes, in those two filter views, are they performing, what is their performance, what is the number of events that they are performing. You can select a variant and get just a view of that particular variant, but you can also select a certain activity and get the information where in those two different processes or different variants of the processes, which variants are covered, which people are performing that. So whenever there is a question and you need to answer that question, you just drill down into the dashboards just to see the root cause and the possible possible root cause of your problems, and you can then try to solve it. Everything is drag and drop. You have multiple visualizations there. So it's combining the best of the process mining with the best of the BI to really give you the confidence that what you do, what you execute, is really giving you the benefits that you wanted. Okay, so how to become a process hero? And we've seen, and I don't want to go into technical details, but really I will stay in the soft skill area. What we think, and what I personally think that is important to becoming a process hero is dedication. We have tools for process discovery, for process analysis, for re-engineering of the processes. But this all is not a side job. This all must be done with dedication. It takes time and it takes effort. I'll be honest with you. It's not something that you can do for an hour a week. It really takes time to drill down into the process transparency. But when you do that, you are still at the beginning, because you need courage to make the decisions. And that should be based on your play in the sandbox. That should be based on your simulation. That should be backed by data. So try alternatives, evaluate the results, and make the decision based on that. The third thing I believe you need is confidence. So at any time, be sure you make the right decision and monitor that. It takes time to reevaluate. It sometimes takes time because you need to go back to the dedication, to the process discovery and analysis, have enough courage to change your decision, but be confident that what you do makes sense and brings the benefits. And that will make you a process hero. Thank you very much.
All right, Michal, thank you so much. It's me, Seth Adler. Once again, I've got a bunch of questions for you. We'll try to get through as many as we can in the next 10 minutes. What is the link between dashboard and process mining?
Yeah, so I will speak from my perspective and or from the perspective of mining, of course. So the link between process mining or our tool set is divided into two parts. It's mining analyst and mining dashboards. And we divide it into two parts because it has different audience. We believe mining analyst is just focused on really thorough analysis, on really deep drill down into the processes. This is what consultants and process analysts and process excellence centers use to get the full understanding of the processes. On the other hand, the business stakeholders, people that are, paid and responsible for monitoring of the processes, for having the business idea how the process operates, are more customers of mining dashboards or dashboards. However, that plays together well. So we use it really to deliver the results and the analysis of process mining into the dashboards, because sometimes the business stakeholders have these questions that are not only BI related, but that are process related. Until now, when they used BI reports and BI dashboards, they were able to have a look at different sales figures, marketing campaigns, and what is the result of that. And they found out that there is a problem in a certain country, in a certain division, but they lacked then the answer for the question, like, what kind of problem is there? What's the process behind? So that's where we combine the process mining results with the BI world to deliver you this one further step, this extra step into the process.
Okay. Here's a softball for you, not from your organization, but still. What are the next major feature additions to Minut's current capabilities? What's on the roadmap?
What's on the roadmap? Thank you for that question. So, right? Yeah, very nice. Well, indeed, we are really focusing right now on process monitoring, continuous process monitoring, and features that help you deliver projects and deliver whatever you do for your customers, or if you are an end customer or person from the end customer, potential end customer, then of course for your particular initiatives and projects. So we are releasing a version end of this month. So basically in a few days, that will be dashboard oriented, and you've seen a short demonstration of the features that will be included. We are enhancing the widgets, we are enhancing the capabilities of comparing the processes and having the variant view and so on. So it's more like a dashboard oriented release. The next release, which will be like in maybe 6 weeks after that end of March, will bring a new functionality that is called business rules. So I can announce that already, and that's really having the possibility to make simple or very, very complex business rules based on your regulations, based on regulations from state institutions, country-wide, based on your KPIs. So it's KPI-based, it's behavior-based. You can define your business rules, and Mining will just evaluate them anytime the data is refreshed and give you a summary of where the violations are based on your severities, make you focused on the errors, warnings, and stuff that you are interested in. And we have a lot more coming in, also planning to use the, machine learning-based technologies for the automated root cause analysis and so on and so forth. So stay tuned for that.
All right. I'm going to paraphrase this next question. Can process mining be applied in non-fancy markets or environments like manufacturing where there are not enough event logs?
Okay. Well, I would say that's two questions in one. So the first part, non-fancy markets like manufacturing, absolutely yes. We are talking about process mining, but basically many times people hear the word process and they are trying to find the process. Sometimes it's not called process. So I like to call it the sequence of steps. Anywhere you have a sequence of steps, you can apply process mining. So that can be healthcare, where the patient is just, being transferred from, department to department. There are tests being made. There are some diagnoses and so on. So that's also a process. Process in manufacturing, of course, you have a manufacturing line. You have IoT. You have sensors that are producing data. You have in manufacturing, you have a lot of information. Your product is going through the manufacturing line, and I guess in most modern factories, you know where the product is, at which time, what is the possible error there, what is the manufacturing line missing. There is a lot of talks about maintenance of those lines, so you have information about potential problems, and so on and so forth. So yes, it can be used anywhere there is a sequence of steps. That's I would say a prerequisite. The second part of the question is, there are no event logs. Well, sometimes you need to find the event logs. They are not in a database, in a table called event log. Sometimes they are hidden. We know that also from a system like SAP. Some of the activities are just hidden because they are not transactional. They are just, the system is just changing values, and you need to find out that changing a certain value is basically an activity. It's a step in the process. It's not a change in the value. It's a step in the process. So you need to make a step out of it. Of course, if there are no logs at all or no data, sometimes we get these questions, like we had few companies in Slovakia that ask us, we are writing the steps, let's say for, attendance in a book by, using a pen or pencil. What can we do with that? So in that particular case, the answer is, of course, you need to digitize it into at least Excel file. But I guess most systems, whether it is hardware, software, IoT, or whatever, are producing some kind of logs.
All right, we're going to have to make this next one the last one. It's a big one because we do only have a couple minutes left. So process reengineering can be very costly and can impact many people. Please speak to timeline and ROI.
Yeah, so that's a good question, and I briefly mentioned it in the presentation that really process reengineering is something that when people, when process analysts or mainly the business stakeholders hear process reengineering, what comes to their mind is money, a lot of social responsibility, a lot of impact on people, and so on. But process reengineering can have many different shapes. So from really like throwing away your old process and creating a new one, through omitting some steps or adding some steps in to ensure compliance in the process. It can really lead to very small changes. And I mentioned a few of them, and I will mention a certain example from this logistics operator. The idea was that they have approval on purchase orders, and then an invoice came in. And they scanned the invoice, they recognize the data, and there was a manual step at the beginning when OCR did not recognize the purchase order number on that invoice. Then there were several people who were searching for that purchase order in their systems to fill it in, because then the process was a little bit automated. So then it was checked against the order, and if everything was okay, then the approval was not needed. And this was taking a lot of time to search for the purchase order number. Now, what to do in this case? And we found the bottleneck, and they were really unhappy that, yeah, we know it's a lot of work, what to do with that. And the solution was simple. The solution was go to your suppliers and just kindly ask them and send them a letter, please put the purchase order number on the invoice. And of course, for companies like the major telco operator or major, electricity supplier, they will not change the invoice based on your requirements. But they have many smaller suppliers that, the people who are actually driving and doing the logistics, driving the trucks and delivering the goods. And without any problems, it just increased the rate of this order number on those invoices. And suddenly they did not need it to those people to take care of these manual activities. They did not need, they managed to shorten the process. So maybe automation first initiative would say robotic process automation. And it might be a good point, of course. But sometimes it is just a question of kindly asking your suppliers.
All right, here we go. So that will unfortunately conclude the session. If you have asked a question, we'll get it to Michal, and he can answer it offline. We must make our way to the next two sessions, which are coming up. But for the time being, thank you for attending. And Michal, thank you so much for the presentation. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much for having me, and all the health. Have a great day. Stay safe.